So, James, you want to get into where did we leave off? I see. I was sitting
We
there
just
thinking
talked
about
real
10 different things.
briefly about bioelectronics,
Yes, that
and
was it.
we're going to talk about some other things. So just a couple other real quick notes. Um, I want to just briefly say that my oldest son is a medical doctor, and he's in the Air Force, and I certainly don't mind you referring to me as Dr. Honeycutt, but personally within our family, we reserve that title for my son because of his service to our country. He's currently deployed, and I'm grateful to have a family member that is out there defending our freedoms and keeping things going for us. To me, it's amazing. He's is in family medicine, and his wife and four of my grandchildren are home, waiting patiently for his return after the first of the year. So he's the real Dr. Honeycutt, and I love him for that and for all that he does to help others. But let's talk about some of the decision-making process that we go through for consumers. One of the things that I'm sorry. Before I get into that, there was another point I wanted to make. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
Talking about the FDA. Interestingly, in all of my dealings to date with the government, with the Patent Office, the Trademark Office, and with the FDA, I've been pleasantly surprised.
Oh.
I can truly say that the old joke, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
Yeah, I do.
That hasn't been the case in these situations. They've actually been very helpful. When we applied for our first patent and I got my first response back and it said it had been rejected, I was really depressed until I read the entire letter, and I realized that that letter actually explained all the things I needed to do to get it granted. And so you have to look past that opening paragraph of it's been rejected and not take it personally. The same thing with our trademarks. When we've had any issues with trademarks, they've explained very clearly what we needed to do to correct it. There's a lot of paperwork involved, won't deny that. Same thing with the FDA so far. They've actually been very helpful and open in helping us to get through this process. So I've been pleasantly surprised with how that process has worked. So, no bad things with those agencies. They've actually been easy to work with, which has been a blessing in this case.
Yes,
and maybe
it has.
to me, but it's worked.
Good.
One of the activities that I do on a regular basis is scan the web looking for other products that are out there that do things similar or make claims similar to what we're doing. I'm looking for several reasons. One is I want to make sure that our patents aren't being violated. But more importantly, I'm looking because I want to understand what consumers are being faced with when they're trying to make decisions about buying products. When my wife was terminally ill with cancer and conventional medicines failed to help her, and we started trying alternative things, I was surprised to find that there were actually electronic type devices that would at least alleviate some of the pain and suffering she was experiencing. But I was also frustrated that these devices were really expensive. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars to buy these things. And we were fortunate that we knew people who had one and they were willing to let us use it and try it and experiment. And I was impressed that I know ones that actually worked and others that didn't. And that formed the impetus, the genesis of what I wanted to accomplish after her passing. I wanted to be able to create products that could help people get better, that were affordable, that were effective, and that were understandable, that people weren't complicated, didn't require a lot of training to be able to use it. You could just plug it in and go. And so most of the products that we have fall into that category, just plug it in and go. All of them are affordable and they're all effective, and we understand the science and make them work. But when I look out on the web, I see these things. And recently, there's a product that we introduced about 4 years ago, and I pulled it out after we sold maybe half a dozen of them, because I wasn't real happy with it. The product is called Purius, and Purius was the name that we chose because it's an energy purifier. You plugged it into a wall outlet, and it transmitted a high-frequency signal over the wiring throughout your home or apartment or office, and it then modulated that signal with these healthy rife frequencies. Again, it was a Fibonacci number crystal to operate it, and it was a very effective product, but it was complicated to build, and I didn't like the fit and finish of the final product. So I pulled it back and I said, you know, it's not time for this yet. In that intervening 4 years, I've been able to make a number of discoveries that have made significant advances in creating a much more elegant and simpler solution, because I wanted to be able to make it something that was much more affordable and more effective and just completely fail-safe. Plug it in and don't worry about it. You know, one of the interesting things in this device that we have, and we haven't released it yet, but we're hopefully going to be able to do that before too much longer here, is it has a photocell, so it detects whether it's light or dark in the area where you're using it, and it then creates appropriate daytime or nighttime synchronizing circadian rhythms, because our rhythms change whether it's light or dark outside or inside, as the case may be. I haven't seen any other device out there that does anything like that, but I was looking at these. You know, every once in a while people will ask me, what about these things that you stick on the back of your cell phone? Do they really work? What about these things that you plug into an outlet that, you know, can neutralize the effects of the power line noise and signals that are coming on? And we did some research into these stick-on plug things you stick on the back of a phone. And they're just not effective. Understanding that in order to create an effective device to cancel the harmful stuff coming out of a phone, it would have to be a device that's almost as big as the phone. Well, interestingly, there's a device out there that does that. It's a case made by a company called Pong, P-O-N-G, and the Pong phone case actually is shown to be effective. It redirects the energy out of those cell phones so that it's not blasting your head with all of this energy. And I'm grateful that that's a real solution that actually works, as opposed to these other phony things that are, you know, $5 or $10 for this holographic sticker. A holographic sticker has nothing to do with electromagnetic signals. Holographic stickers have a place, but it's not in reducing EMF, and that concerns me, because people may buy those things, stick it on their phone thinking it's safer to use, and then spend much more time on their cell phone or around a wireless hotspot and not realize they're exposing themselves to those dangers. So that's the first concern. You and I talked a little bit about some of these other devices that people have, these pendants that they carry around in like an anodized aluminum tube that's composed of crushed crystal or minerals that are supposed to have different effects on the body. I'm a true believer that crystals have an energy field, and I've seen the effects of using quartz crystals and other types of crystals in healing situations, and that's one of the reasons why we use the quartz crystal that's slivered for the timing element in our products, is because there's a real value into that. But when you crush a crystal, you have disrupted that energy field, and you've mixed it all together with all the other components that are in there. And you've taken an organized, structured energy, and you've created a disorganized, chaotic energy. And in any of the testing I've done in exposure with these things, and I think I'm sensitive to the energies as you are, that there's no difference. To me, those are just a waste of time and money to be investing in those kinds of things. Now, having said that, the placebo effect is powerful and can have an amazing effect on things. There are out in the marketplace now that kind of a device is a passive device. There's no external power applied to it, and there are active devices that are powered by a battery or plugged into a wall, that are actually transmitting or emitting a signal or helping to cancel out or override harmful things. And so the Pong case is a passive device that works. I haven't seen many of those types of things that are passive that have that kind of an effect. and whether it's the bracelets or different types of pendants, when they're passive devices, the effect of those seems to be very minimal. So we've tried to focus on active devices. But how do you pick an active device? Because then you start talking more money, because there's electronics that go into, there's software, there's development time, there's a lot of costs that go into building these things. And so from a personal standpoint, how do I pick a device? How do I make that decision? What are the things that a person should look for? So when I was out there looking at these different types of things, the first thing I realized was I want to know who the manufacturer is. A lot of products I found were being sold by marketing companies that may be reputable, but there was no indication of who made the device, whether it was made in the US, whether it was made overseas. And there's something significant about devices and who touches them. There is an energy transfer that occurs in the manufacturing process of any instrument. And if this device is being manufactured by unhappy, sad, underpaid people who are not in a good space, that energy gets transferred to that device. Not saying that that's the case with everything out there, but there's that consideration, that there's this energy transfer that occurs from just handling of those things. So I want to know where it was made and who made it. I want to know about the manufacturer. And that's the first thing I try to find out, is who's making this thing. Can I find out anything about it? The second thing is that when they make these claims, are they more than just testimonials? Do they explain any of how this works? In other words, it's not just what this thing supposedly does, and these people have said these kinds of things about it, but do they explain any of the science behind it at all? Is this product, is there a patent behind it? Is there any technology in here that I can explain or understand on some level? And not because I'm a scientist, but because I want to know. I want to understand how it's affecting my body. So are they able to explain the process? One of the most interesting things are these websites that will show slides of blood cells, and they'll show a slide of blood cells where the cells are all clumped together, and then another slide where the blood cells, the red blood cells, are all separated and not bumping into each other. And they're saying that that's a result of being exposed to this device they're selling, and that helps the blood in our systems because it's creating these ionized charges so that the blood doesn't clump together, so it's going to flow more smoothly. I don't know if that's better or not. I've talked to different doctors about, so what's the difference between blood cells that are clumped together and ones that are being repelled from each other? And I've not had a doctor yet tell me that there was any benefit either way with those kinds of things. I agree, the ones that are repelling looks healthier. So, but I don't know how that's supposed to be healthier. And there's no explanation of what that really means for my body if I have that device going on. I want to understand for active electronic devices if it's been certified or validated by the FCC. Are the levels that are being transmitted out of this thing emitted? Are they safe levels? Has somebody done some testing? Even if it's the manufacturer, the FCC allows companies like NUTESLA to do what's called self-certification. We have to test the device and file the paperwork to keep track of the device and the test environment, and so we can self-certify. But I don't even see those kinds of things on many of these devices, so I don't even know if they've done any testing like that at all. I want to understand if they have what their return policy is. Is there a restocking fee? What is the return time? How long do you have to try this thing out and test it before you have to return it? And so those become real critical things in being able to understand how to make a product selection, how safe it is, what testing it's undergone, how do they understand themselves how they use it, who the manufacturer is, and so those become kind of the bar that I want to at least reach and if not exceed when I look at these things. So.
Let me interrupt you here for just a minute. I think another thing that people need to understand is that a lot of these devices and things that they find out online, that they're actually done by a third-party seller. In other words, I own JWR Enterprises, right? And I'm going to buy stock from buy some stock not
Products.
stock, product, right, from 10 different companies, and I'm going to then, because I buy it at wholesale prices, and then I'm going to take it in, I'm going to put together a little catalog, I'm going to put it up on the internet, and I'm going to begin to sell it. I'm now a third party, I'm a middleman from you, and I know nothing about it, but it makes all these claims, which is the PR stuff that I get from the company where I originally purchased the product. I want people to recognize that those, like you said, here's the blood cells clumped together, and then there's the one that didn't have it. Okay, who provided those slides? Who provided that information? Was that really the manufacturer of that device that was placing that ad, or was it a third party that simply is buying the product and reselling it at a higher cost because they get it at wholesale, and that's the paperwork that goes along with it in order to be able to attract business and to sell the product. That's the other thing for people to look out for. Okay.
Plus, there are other companies that are out there that rather than even buying the product and having it on stock, all they do is rep it. So they create a website, and you order through that website. They never see or touch the product. It gets shipped from another place, and so that person has nothing to do with it. So they have literally no exposure to that product. But, you know, and not that all products sold that way are not useful, but you want to find out what you can about it before you make that investment. Everything that, you know, these are our bodies. We're responsible for them. Our bodies, if you will, I mean, you know, this is our temple. It's sacred. We need to take care of it. We only get one per customer, and so we've got to be able to understand that when it comes to our health, we have to make informed decisions because nobody's going to do it for us. That's one of the things that changed in the medical industry. Is it used to be 50 years ago, you go to the doctor and the doctor would tell you what drugs to take, what procedures to have, everything else. Now you go to the doctor. This is what I discovered with me 20 years ago with cancer was they said, okay, here's the diagnosis and here's your options. And I'm like, so what should I do? And they're like, it's up to you. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm not the, you're the specialist, right? They expected me to make an informed decision about my treatment, and they laid out the options and the plans, and we were able to work together to do that. But it was the first time that I faced, if you will, a life-threatening situation where I realized that I needed to pull myself up by the bootstraps, learn more about myself and my health. I was grateful that prior to that time I had been using homeopathy and understanding how that vibrational medicine, which homeopathy is, had been helping me and my family. And so I had a little more exposure to what was going on in my body than I might have had otherwise. So when it came to making those decisions, I at least understood some of the issues that I needed to be aware of. So I'm grateful for that. But everybody needs to be aware of what's happening around us and what we need to be concerned with. And we're approaching the end of the time here, so part of what I wanted to make sure that we hit upon again is understanding these circadian rhythms. And I'm hoping within less than a few weeks from now that I have the application ready for the different platforms I mentioned for the circadian clock, is what we call it, or the ultradian clock perhaps, that will demonstrate. And part of the challenge in this is being able to show you, a physical clock of the time, and then the daily clock for your body, and then the ultradian clock of each rhythm, and overlay those three clocks into one so that it's presented in a useful way. But I believe that will help people begin to understand some of these rhythms that are going through with their bodies, because it affects the time you go to bed. If you go to bed at the wrong time, you're going to lay there for an hour and a half waiting for your body to relax. If you understand the cycles of your body, you'll know when to lay down and go to sleep. The other thing is that learning how to minimize our exposure to these low-level radio frequency waves that are all the way around us. Understanding that there are people that are, now deciding not to put Wi-Fi in their home and just have wired connections. They don't need to have Wi-Fi. Understanding that you can turn the wireless off on your device if you don't need the wireless, and only turning it on when you need it. Most laptops today actually make it very simple to just turn the Wi-Fi off and on. That's what airplane mode is on any phone or laptop. And using your device in airplane mode is much safer than using it in another mode. Another point that's interesting is cell phones. You know, on a cell phone, when you put it up against your face, the display goes blank. And that was done to conserve the battery, plus you don't need this thing glaring in the side of your face. But the other thing is that when the display is off, it's not emitting harmful stuff towards your head. They moved the radio frequency part of the headset, the telephone, from up at the top. Remember how they used to have little antennas on all of the cell phones, right? They moved all that down to the bottom where your mouth is, so that it wasn't up here by your brain. The radio waves were all down here by your chin. And we tend to hold the phone away from our face, so we're moving that away and have more distance between the two of us.
Huh. Well, I did something smart there. That was right. Yeah. That was good. That was good, right? I think that was pretty good.
Yes, and those were both good changes. And if you have to use a cell phone, the best option is to either use it on speakerphone mode or use it with a wired headset. They make these little small wired headsets, little earbud and little microphone. Right. And there is essentially no energy coming off of that that's going to harm your body, so that that's a much safer option. Keep your phone, again at arm's distance, that rule of thumb, and be able to use it with a wired headset is much safer. And the biggest issue with safety in cell phones, of course, is while driving. So
oh my gosh,
when my insurance company, they wanted all of its insured members to make a pledge to not text and drive. It's just smart. But, again, putting the device in airplane mode is the best option. And if you have to have it near you while you sleep, keep it at least an arm's distance away so it's not right there within the field. And knowing how these things work and where the radio element is, that it's towards the bottom of the phone, you can move that to be the furthest away from you.
Well, all of that, James, is extremely good information for people that are listening to the show. That's what this is about, is educating people so that they understand what it is that's going on. You do such a good job of that, by the way. You're such an eloquent speaker. And of course, you've been doing this for a little bit, as far as putting together the information and all of that, and you just do a fabulous job with that. But more so than that, I do invite people to go back to your website, to do the research on what it is that you are really talking about, because you've got a wealth of information all about the circadian rhythms and what really is. What is it, rhythmetics? I think I pronounced that right, rhythmetics and all of that. And you get into all of that. You give them an education besides talking about your product. Nowhere have I seen anybody that does this much about a product that they have than you do in your website. And I'm not just saying that. That's not lip service. That's truth. So I do invite people to certainly go check it out. I know I will be in touch with you here about some of your products after I look through them again myself. There's always, a curiosity as far as and I have to listen to myself. Which one do I need? Because you don't want to get too many things going on, because then you really throw yourself off, so you just kind of have to pay attention to what's going on. But I'm actually quite interested in that new product that you have coming out as well. So you have to keep us up to date so that you come back, if nothing else, and give us an update and any other information that you want to share with us, because I invite you to come back. I do. It's just, this stuff is cool. I mean, it's cool, it's healthy, and it's the right thing for us to be doing. So it's a cool thing. And you educate people. Besides just having a product, you educate people, not just on your product, but what's going on in the world. That's a cool combination, man. I appreciate it. I do. I really do. And any last words here before we kind of wrap this up? We've got a few more minutes.
Um, One of the other products that I didn't talk about because I'm actually using it right now is called the
Oh,
Metronome. Metronome is the same size as, and I was just looking for one sitting here. I've actually got it on my shoulder right now. I was unfortunately in an automobile accident a few months ago,
oh,
and
bless you.
hurt this shoulder. I had my wife work on it, who's a massage therapist, and she got it fixed and everything's fine, and then I went out and hurt it again, which we tend to do. But Metronome is like the Clarius, except that it's battery powered. It has an internal rechargeable battery, and what I found is that whenever I get any kind of aches or pains going on in my body, I just put an ace bandage and wrap it around that part of the body, and within minutes the pain dissipates, which I find to be just really amazing how quickly that works. And what we found is that, and we could go back and talk about how all this stuff affects the body. It was, it was Luigi Galvani, who was the anatomist, that was the one that was doing the dissection of the frog leg, that kicked when it was touched by the scalpel because there was an electrical current, and they discovered that electricity could cause muscles to contract. Well, the interesting thing is that electrical currents will cause a muscle to contract, but magnetic pulses will cause the muscle to relax. So by sending electromagnetic pulses into the muscles, instead of causing them to get tight, it causes them to relax. And then when the muscles relax, it improves circulation, and as you improve circulation, you're able to reduce inflammation and swelling, and the proper nutrients get to the body, the toxins leave, and so everything just works so much better. So being able to allow the body to heal with these inductive electromagnetic pulses allows us to use the natural mechanisms that we have built in for self-healing. And so that's what we're trying to do, is help the body heal itself, restore the natural rhythms, open up the body to being able to take care of itself like it was intended to do, and then helping us achieve those levels of wellness. Somebody once asked me, so if I need Somnius for sleep, how long do I have to use it? And my answer is that as long as it takes, I guess. What I found is that whatever's causing your sleep problem, you need to address. Somnius will help you get the sleep so you can then take the time to figure out what's causing the sleep problems. If it's anxiety, if it's something physiological, you're not going to solve it by using Somnius. Somnius is going to help your body retune itself and help your brain follow those natural sleep cycles and help you have that restful, restorative sleep. But you still have to address what the underlying cause is, or keep using Somnius. It's okay. All of our products come with a 1-year warranty. They all come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. The information on the website is intended to be understandable and readable. So, I certainly invite people to check out NUTESLA.com and look for the products. We've been shipping products. August of this year was our 5-year anniversary of shipping our latest versions of the products. All the products are USB compatible. They can all be updated, so as I make changes and new discoveries, we can send updates out to the customers. We just did that a couple of months ago in July. Sent out updates for all of the products and make them available at no cost on the website. People can connect to the website, download the product update, plug it into a USB port on their computer, and all the products have unique software that we can then expand their functionality and add amazing features to them. So that's been critical.
Wow. See, nobody else is doing that. I just love it, and I just love you, and I thank you so much, James, for being here tonight. Honestly, I do. The information was invaluable, not only to myself, but certainly to the viewers and the ones that will be viewing it later on that couldn't join us live tonight. So again, my hat's off to you, and thank you so much for joining us. For the rest of you, be sure to join me next Tuesday. I'm on from 2 to 3 p.m. Central Time. I have my astrologer, Shelley Entine, will be back. And then we have Robert Salas, I believe, next week. Or, yeah, I think next week on Wednesday. But please do check my website. That's journeyswithrebecca.com. I have one more event scheduled for this Sunday. It's getting very full, so I would encourage you to go and check out my classes and events page.